Hi everybody, how are you doing? Woo! Woo!
Yeah.
Woo, we're almost there. Okay, so this is about how EDA can help improve your serverless architecture in 5 minutes. So my name is James Beswick. I'm a principal DA in the AWS Serverless team. I've been a software developer for a long time, also a product manager for a few years before being a DA. I'm a self-confessed serverless geek. Most important thing on this slide is my email address, my Twitter handle. So if you ever have any questions about serverless, I'll do my very best to help. Now, everything I'm talking about today is about things my team has done with this new project called Serverless Espresso, which you haven't seen it yet, is at AWS summits, reInvents, and other events we're doing. Essentially, it's a production-grade coffee ordering process that we use. It's all based on EDA, and it handles 1,000 drinks a day. So some of the conclusions we drew from that are in this presentation. And also, everything I'm showing you can be done using Amazon EventBridge, which is a serverless event bus, and you have it in your AWS account already. So whether you're using it or not, you already have a default bus, and you can use it straight away. So one of the first things about this we discovered is it can really be useful for decoupling your workloads. Now, we talk about this as developers a lot, decoupling, decoupling, decoupling. What does it really mean? Well, the reason why this is helpful is that events are not simply messages. Events are information about something changing in your environment. And the producer of an event doesn't need to know about the consumer of an event. In fact, it's preferable if they don't. And it's a very subtle change, but it means that you can find that your producers, those microservices that create events, actually don't know who's listening. And that means it makes it much easier to split work up between different teams. And this is one of the major side effects we found when we built this application. A follow-on from this is also helpful for replacing your private APIs. So for anyone who's built private APIs in AWS, raise your hand. How many people enjoyed building private APIs? I don't believe you. So, as you know, there's a lot of work involved with building private APIs that can make it a little bit tricky when actually most of the time you just want something that's not publicly visible. You're not actually trying to do anything more than that. Now, in asynchronous workloads, where you're passing messages around between different services, events can be a really good replacement for this. It's extremely simple just to raise an event, throw it onto the bus, and then have other services pick it up. And it can be a good substitute that solves some of the complexity of private APIs. It can also help replace what I call API chains. So a lot of people, when we first start, we build a service like this. You've got an order service on the left, and you build a payment service, and you've got two services with an API, and it's all great, and it's all looking decoupled, and the service becomes popular, and you add more and more services as you go. And before long, what you have is something that becomes fairly monolithic. And the reason for this is that the happy path is fine, but when you get to exception handling, it gets really messy very fast. If your fulfillment service stops working, then you have to send a message to kind of adjust other services along the way. And this is just for one type of error that can happen within this application. And so it can actually get extremely difficult when you have these types of API couplings in chains. Now, obviously, you can use step functions for a lot of this too, but in many cases where you just want simple choreography, events can be a good alternative to building this type of architecture. Also, in my 20-something years of building software, what I've found is one of the most valuable things I can do when I'm building to create value for my customers is to build for extensibility. I have absolutely no idea what the requirements are going to be of software in 3 months' time, and I've come to embrace this instead of fighting this. When you first start building things and you create versions of software, you really don't know what it's going to be doing in 3 to 6 months. And so you're thinking about building architectures that can survive lots of changes and not architectures where you're trying to make the best guesses early on. When you're creating architectures that emit events, this becomes a more natural part of your design. So you've heard that old phrase about sing like no one's listening, dance like no one's watching. I say publish events like you're not going to use them because the chances are in 3 months' time you might well be using them, and that'll help you with the extensibility in your infrastructure. This is a favorite of mine too. So SAM templates are great. Who's using IAC to build their serverless tools? Yeah. That's good. I'd like to see more hands there, but okay. So when you have an IAC tool like SAM, what you'll find is as you build larger and larger applications, these templates get to be very large, and it gets to be a little bit tricky when you're making small changes to your designs. So here is something I built a couple of years back, which helps you go through all the documents in your enterprise and essentially indexes the content for Elasticsearch. And it's really a Rube Goldberg machine when you look at it. There's lots of different services here. There's a lot going on. And it's fairly hard to make changes to this without really changing the fragility of the application and risking it breaking. And what we found was we could take this and convert it to an EDA-based model where instead each type of function is going through an event bus. And it meant we had different types of Lambda functions doing different things. And it made it very easy to then build modifications where different teams can then decide to, for example, create new Lambda functions that can interpret different types of content. And so generally, we found this professionalized what we were building, and I think it can go a long way to getting you away from these absolutely massive SAM templates. So those are the few things we learned from building EDA and amongst other things with our customers. If you want to learn more about serverless, we've got a website called Serverless Land, the DA team that I'm on runs. This has blogs, videos, learning paths, and all sorts of other materials that can help you get going, including patterns. We've got over 300 patterns on there today as well. So my name's James Beswick. Thanks very much for listening. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day.